introduced everybody. We are very, very lucky to have Paul Dunn here, who's the 4-time TEDx speaker. He is the godfather of impact, and he's joined us last year for the 17X down in Sydney. He's an amazing storyteller, an incredibly generous human being, and he's managed to make a massive amount of impact in his career and his life. Now, through these challenging times, there's no other person we would like to go to for some words of recommendations and advice than Paul today. So please give him a massive round of applause. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, that is so nice. Well, thank you so much. And I'm very privileged to be here, and very grateful that you could make it as well, right? Because it isn't easy under these circumstances. So thank you very much for doing that. By the way, if it's okay with you, I want to make today really as interactive as we can. And so one of the things you're going to need, you really are going to need this, is a pad and a pen. So those of us that have switched the camera on, just wave the pad at me, just so that so I can see you've got an iPad, which is even better. Okay, good. Okay, and you're gonna need a pen as well. By the way, I know that we're. Let me just share my screen just for a second. Well, in fact, for more than a second. And let me just do this. There we go. And you should see. Let's be sure that we can actually see. You should see, if I get rid of that Zoom window there, you should see where I am this morning. So that is Singapore, and we'll just take a little trip around Singapore. Just give me a thumbs up if you can see Singapore sort of floating by. There you go. Pretty wonderful place, wonderful place. This background that I have, I'm not in the middle of the city, I'm actually looking out over that background right there. And people say, oh my God, there's green in Singapore? Yes, there is. We are 54% green, actually, which is really, really cool. Talking of really, really cool, I just want to, when we're in this particular circumstances that we are right now, where we've never been before, I promise I won't use the word unprecedented, except then. But one thing that, as well as being grateful to you, it is always appropriate right now, I think, just to, acknowledge some people, including taxi drivers and all of those sorts of people who literally put themselves, right in the front line. At this time, so just an appropriate moment, I think, just to acknowledge those people who make it easier to be from home. So with that in mind, and showing the picture of Singapore, jump up on the chat. I love getting chats up here. That's interactive. Do it on the chat, not on the Q&A, and let me know if you have been to Singapore. You might also tell me the day, the year that you came to Singapore. Go ahead, just pop it up on the chat, and then let me know what type of business you are in. If you could do that, really, oh, look, chat's coming through, really good. Okay, keep coming. Diane says, really cold. How do you do that? I'm not sure. Many moons ago, Carmel, yes. In fact, if you came to Singapore like 4 weeks ago, it would be different. If this thing moves at such and such a pace. And the good news is now, well, not now, but when the flights were on, you could come up here for like $300 return out of Scoot and stuff. Health and Healing, Glenda, of course. Leadership, of course, leadership development. Okay, well, that might be useful for where we're going to head today. Diane, we need you back. We really do need you back. It's just an amazing place. You can tell that, I just feel very privileged to be here. It's just an awesome place to be. Okay, so with that in mind, one of the things that I can do from being where you're not is hopefully give you some perspective on what's actually happening now. And if you wanted a good definition of perspective, here's one that's kind of nice. Perspective is looking at things from a place where you're not, which of course is sort of impossible, right? Because you cannot be at a place where you're not. And that's why, of course, it's very important to connect in with Bambuddha so you can get those different perspectives and maybe look at it slightly differently. And with that in mind, now you are going to jump into this when I see what you do. You are all going to jump into this. Let me give you an example of that. Just put up on the chat. Go ahead. What do those two letters stand for? P&L. Just go. One more. Just pop it up. And we know you'll get that right. Although in the US, they do have a problem with that because they don't use that term. They use the term income statement. Yes, Louise, 100%. Louise, if there was a prize for guessing it, you would certainly have got that prize. But look at the way Anna changes that, right? So you got purpose and love. I presume that's you, Anna. Purpose and love. Oh my goodness, goodness, goodness. Well, kind of. Yes, 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 yes. Oh, really? I now do a lot of work with David, actually. So thank you for that. Yes. What if it actually meant this? What if it really meant purpose and legacy? And what if, and this time that we're in now is just such an important time to focus on these two things. What if purpose and legacy actually led to greater profit and impact? Wouldn't that be kind of interesting? Yes, it would. And by the way, we know now, some of you would have seen the recent Harvard Business Review article, which really put it really well. It said this: purpose-driven companies make more money, have more engaged employees, more loyal customers, and are far, far better at innovation and transformational change. By the way, there's a lot of other stuff that comes off that article, and I might share that with you some other time. But with that in mind, let's do this as we focus on purpose and legacy. You've already shown me that pad that you have. So would you just mind and turn it that way, as in turn it landscape wise? And what we're going to do, and by the way, do this as well as you can, because I think you're going to want to refer to this, okay? So do it, kind of as properly as you can. And we're just going to draw some shapes. Don't bother drawing them right now, but little shapes like this, right? That's basically what we're going to do. And we're going to put some names in those shapes. So let's start. So let's do this one over here, and we're going to call that today, right? That's today. So this is going to be like a time-based model here. And one of the things that we know, although it's getting a little bit easier, is that today, there's awesome uncertainty around. What's it going to look like? All of that sort of stuff. But there are some things that we can be certain of. And one of the things we can be certain of, that there will be a future date. There will be some time in the future, and we don't need to define what that date is, but just what I want you to do is draw a line to this future date. And we may not, what we can be certain is that future date is going to come. So it might be 18 months, it might be 12 months, but it's some future date with a straight line connecting them, okay? Now, one of the things that we've seen, Anna, and you've probably seen, and all of us joining on the call have probably seen this. We've seen examples of, because it really is about leadership, and we've seen 3 different types of leaders that have shown up, if you will, in this particular situation. And we're just going to identify them. They all begin with P. Oh, by the way, there's the line that's called, when it's over, right? We know it's going to be over, and human history says we're going to get through it. The thing that we may not know is when, right? So it's like, it's just sort of wandering up there. But if we go back to today, particularly if we go back like about a month ago, we started to see leadership through these 3 leadership things. And the first one we saw was this one. Just draw it down about halfway along. And I said they begin with P. That is panic, right? So it's like, oh my God, right? We've never been here before. Oh God. And leaders who do this, they do one of 2 things. They run around like a chicken with its head cut off, or alternatively, they freeze, right? They just don't know what to do. So this is freeze response, right? And of course, we want them to make decisions, because that's what great leaders do, but they just like that. Right? Now, in the middle, and these people exist all over the place. So just, draw a squiggly sort of sine wave line. And the way that, no, you would not call that leadership. Of course you wouldn't. No, this is leadership behavior, or behavior of leaders, we should say. And these ones we call passive, okay? As I said, that all begins with P. And passive means, well, it's sort of like, we sort of go up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down, and the future never really changes, right? But then there are, let's call them for today, the real leaders. And this is what happens to the real leaders. There's always this kind of uptick going on. And by the way, you may notice, and these, by the way, are called purpose-driven or purpose-focused leaders. And you may notice, if you look at the difference between the red and the blue line alongside today, and then look at the difference, now, I mean, look at that difference. And so the quicker we get into that purpose-focused thing, the better. Now, one of the things that we've realized is that these purpose-focused leaders do something interesting. And what's interesting is this: they are consistently at their best, irrespective of what's going on. They are consistently at their best. That's what they do. And so as I was writing this model down, I think, oh, consistently at their best. The next question for me was, what is it that shows us that they are, what do they do? How do you and, what's the moment when you and I, the moments when you and I know that we're consistently at our best? That's one of them. I think that we are all at our best when we're giving. And I'm not talking about money or stuff like that necessarily. I'm talking about when we extend our hand and help someone across the road, when we give different perspectives. We're all at our best when we're giving. And hopefully that makes sense, right? You might put a Y in the chat box if you're up with that one. And so, because there's a consistency that's required here, have a guess what great leaders do? They embed that giving into everything they do. Everything they do. So for example, if that giving was involving, like some sort of charity thing, if they would not necessarily go, oh, well, we've got the charity ball, down there. They would be doing, no, it's got to be everything we do, right? Because it has to be, you remember Charles Duhigg and Power of Habit. And one of the things that you see when that happens is what happens when they, in whatever way they do it, when they're giving, what happens is the spirit of their enterprise shifts. And it's this shift that is really, really interesting, I think. And one of the things that you see, particularly now, there's a lot of talk been going on, as you know, about pivoting. Everybody pivots, right? But when these guys don't pivot, they transform. They use this time to actually transform, to make sure that they're consistently at their best and that the people that are around them are at their best. Now, let's go back to what the title of today was. By the way, just put in the chat whether this is making sense, whether you're finding this a useful model. Just pop that in the chat if this is sort of sounding useful, if this gives you like a framework to have a look at stuff. Yeah, 100. Oh, very good. Thanks. That's really good. Okay, so thanks, Esther. That's really good. Now, what I'd love you to do then, that's really encouraging, right? So if you just go back to the today part, so go close to there, and you would recognize that this is a fork in the road, right? Today's a fork in the road. But I think there's another way of describing that fork in the road, and the way I choose to describe it is this. This really is our time to rise. It really is. Right now is our time to rise in all sorts of ways. Like, we know we're going to get through it, and we hope that all the messages of now are messages that we carry through, messages of generosity, messages of caring, messages of, all of those sorts of, we're all one kind of messages. And when I was thinking about that, I realized that sometimes you've probably heard that thing, when we point the finger of blame, there are 1, 2, 3 fingers pointing back at us. And I realized that sometimes you say to yourself, well, someone else is going to do that. And then I realized that there is no someone else. There's no someone else. It's like, it's us. So what is it that lets us do this thing, this keep on this purpose thing? And I think, and Stephen Covey talked about it, but I think it's kind of like this North Star. We have something there that is bigger than ourselves. It's not what we do every day. It's what is this bigger thing, something bigger than ourselves, whatever that is, okay? Now, some people, my good friend Simon Sinek, for example, would call that someone's why, okay? And there's no question that that really, really helps. And one of the things that I do, Anna, is frequently is I work with people on defining that. Let me give you a little example of that so that you can see what I mean. Here's a guy. The guy happens to be in Brisbane, and he runs a technology company called Infinite Edge. You might want to take a note of that, infiniteedge.com.au, I think it is. Don't go there now, but just you might want to go there later. Now, one of the things about the why that is crucial and about this thing that is bigger than ourselves is to be aware of what Simon said to me one day in a private conversation. He said this, Paul, you need to remember that true purpose is always human. True purpose is always human. That means if we have like a mission statement that says, oh, we aim to be the best company at that, that doesn't cut it anymore. So true purpose goes beyond the product and service. So let's have a look at what Marty did right here. Look at it. We make complex technology beautifully simple for you so that you can concentrate on what you do best. There it is, being human. So he's in the IT space, but being human. And then we give you and your teams the freedom to connect in new ways, to bring that sense of humanity, there's the word, to bring that sense of humanity to your workplace, your families, to your communities, and of course, to our world. Now, and by the way, that has totally changed the connection with his team and importantly, the connection with his customers, because have a guess where that is on his website. It's where every why should be. It's right on the front, right on the front. It's the first thing you see when you go to infiniteedge.com.au. And so it should be. That's where our why must be. We can't hide it. You know, we can't let people discover it. We've got to be out there. Now, with that in mind, if we think about this as a North Star and we think of human, then I think there's a North Star that we all can embrace. And it's this North Star right here, that one, the global goals, right? And I know that because you're in this community, you are so familiar with the global goals, these 17 things that we have to, no choice, right? Have to do by 2030. And, you know, I have this piece around the global goals that I won't get into today, but because we won't have time. But I think one of the most important things about the global goals is that when they were being launched in the UN in 2015, yes, 5 years ago, 4.5 years ago, September 2015, the UN, it was the first time that the UN said it's not governments that make the difference in our world. That is so critical to get. It's not governments that make the difference. It's businesses that make the difference. And if you think about that, now governments can enable, but it's businesses that really, really can and do make the difference. So if you wanted to find a kind of an aim, right, it's this, that what we need to do now, because now we've got we've got the space to figure it out. We need to be able to commit our business to becoming a force for good. And hopefully some of the things that we've shared in this 15-minute, or maybe a bit more, time frame gives you some ideas. And I'd love you to not just have the ideas, but I'd love to you to get some resources, one of which you're going to be the first in the world to get, quite seriously. Turns out about a year ago, Anna, that I started writing a book with a friend of mine, which was called, funnily enough, Time to Rise, a year ago. And we just didn't see this coming, nor did anybody, but it happens to be, of course, a perfect book for now. And there it is, and you can actually be the first ones, literally the first ones, to go right there, timetorise.global, and you'll download a pre-publication copy of the book, which I think you'll really, really, really enjoy. The other thing, if you wanted to go even further than the book, by the way, is very prescriptive, but if you wanted to go even further beyond that and have a look at how we're doing that in B1G1. Oh, Kerry's there. Hi, Kerry. Didn't realize you were there. Whoa, wow, how wonderful to see you. Then you can just go to b1g1.global. Make sure you say .global/look. Okay. And when you go to b1g1.global/look, that will take you to a little Vimeo video that is, let's see, it's about 4 minutes long, and it will illustrate how you can do these things that we talked about up front. That is, well, at best when we're giving, shifting the spirit and transforming. So Anna, there you go. I'm going to stop my share so that I can get back in the forest. There we go, back in the forest. Or just to make it feel a little more comfortable, perhaps I can go into the hotel. The thing about the hotel room, no one's come and cleaned that hotel room, you know, in the last 3 or 4 weeks. And you know, I can totally transport myself. I can go have a cup of coffee. I can do all of those sorts of things. But people do tend to love the forest background. So there we are. So Anna, not too many stories today, but hopefully some useful drawings that you'll be able to kind of refer to and say, you know, where am I on this journey and how do I keep on it and make a real difference in our world.
Thank you so much, Paul. How awesome was that? Can we just give a hands up, a round of applause?
Thank you.
Switch your mics off. Let's give him a clap. Thank you for sharing that brilliant, brilliant plan with us that you just shared with us, and that brilliant insight and way of seeing things, because I think it's so important now for people in this recovery phase, you know, to start stepping out of that crisis mindset and looking at how do we rise. So that was just the most perfect timing today, and we're so thankful to have you. Does anyone have any questions for Paul while we've got him for a couple more minutes?
It's still swept.
Yeah. For now. Okay, well, that looks like that's it today, but thank you so much for your time. Next week, we're actually taking our boosts down to 3 days a week. So it'll be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and we're doing that to accommodate for people's now needing to get back into a work environment and readjusting themselves for how they're going to rise in the next stage. So on Tuesday, we've got Warwick Merry, who's going to be presenting to everybody, and he's an excellent MC and presenter. He's going to be giving us a little mini masterclass on how to speak well, present well, and tell stories really, really well. So additional to that, on Wednesday, we've got Luli Adiyama, and she's going to be talking about online presenting. She's been running an awesome events company for a number of years, and she's helping us up our game with regards to building that experience online. Because as you know, and Paul knows, storytelling is one of the most important things that take people on a journey. And then on Thursday, we've got Tegan Davies from the Oranges Toolkit, which is the social enterprise on the side of Camp Quality. And it's all about the positive psychology and how you can take your teams on a really good journey at this time. So tune in next week. Thank you for keep coming back. If anyone is in a cuddle...
And just can I mean, here you are saying thank you to everybody, but thank you for your leadership at this particular time, right? Really, seriously, thank you. And one of the keys to all of that is to double down on the relationships. And that's exactly what you're doing. And it's a fabulous example of what we all need to do. So thank you for it.
Thank you, Paul. That means a hell of a lot. Thank you, everybody. Take care. Be kind to each other.
Bye. Bye-bye.